Canada. We stopped in towns, we stopped in cities, we had a really good time, and I had a funky couple of roommates along that trip. But my favorite one is likely yours as well. Everybody put your hands together for Chris Scott!
This crowd today. What do we have here? What do we have? We have the people aligned with the police against the draconian government. And what do we call that, everybody? United Non-Compliance! I told you all that the police would eventually have to draw a line in the sand. The police would eventually have to honor their oath to our Constitution, their oath to themselves, their oath to their families, their oath to their country. And today is that day. And when they stepped up to the plate for us, as you see, we stepped up to the plate for them. So give yourselves a round of applause. Give the police a round of applause. The Toronto police are now the best police, in my opinion, in the entire world. When your service members put themselves on the line for you, what bigger respect can you pay them but doing the same thing back? That is how we get through this. Everybody has freedom of choice. And I don't care how many times Trudeau is going to tell us, he's not going to take that away from us. He's not going to take it away from me. He's not going to take it away from you. He's not going to take it away from anyone. And let's make one thing very clear. This is not an anti-mask or anti-vax rally. This is a pro-freedom rally. Here, because we don't care if you want to wear a mask. I still love you. I just want us to have the freedom of choice that makes Canada Canada, and I think you all do too. I tried to warn you guys. Like 18 months ago, I told you everything that was going to happen. And the mere words vaccine passport made me a crazy conspiracy theorist. Now that it's here, even 6 weeks ago when Doug Ford said, we're not going to do a vaccine passport. I told you all, that's called pacification followed by predictive programming. I told you all, there's going to be an election. I told you all, Trudeau's probably going to win it, but even if O'Toole, the only other person mathematically possible, does, we already see how the Conservatives run a province. We know how they run the country. There is no political solution to this problem. They want us arguing about our favorite politician while they slip the vaccine passport in the back door. But we're not going to do that. We're organizing against it as we speak. And how are we doing it? We have groups in every province. The one in Vancouver, British Columbia, has over 100,000 businesses. The one in Ontario has almost 100,000 businesses. And we're growing every day. And they think they're going to install this vaccine certificate and then the next month they're going to make it an electronic document on our phone. What do you think this is? Nazi Germany 2021? All of a sudden, segregation's okay as long as Trudeau says it is.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not okay. It never was okay. It never will be. We do not tolerate discrimination. We do not tolerate segregation. And we do not tolerate taking away our rights and our freedoms and our medical privacy. We're not going to tolerate it. So how are we going to fight back? They're threatening you with fines. Oh, you're going to get a $750 fine. I found about $100,000 of those friggin' toilet paper. And they're the most expensive toilet paper I've ever used. And guess what? Just like we did with the hotel quarantine, what happened to that? They don't talk about it anymore. Why? Because it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because I made a little airport video where I walked through and I simply reminded Canadians that we have rights and we have freedoms. And I showed you how to assert those rights and freedoms and how to fight the fake fines. And what happened? When I did it, absolutely nothing happened. But when all of you started doing it too, to the tune of tens of thousands of Canadians in united non-compliance, we overwhelmed the system. A friend of mine got his ticket back with a court date of 2030. Yeah. So what do you think's going to happen when they roll out this vaccine passport? I am saying every single one of you have a duty as a Canadian to go out and get a fine. The very first day. Let's show them what's going to happen when they want to make a law that makes us all criminals. We're going to act like criminals. You want to make us outlaws? We're going to act like outlaws. What are you going to do with 10 million outlaws? You want to fight? We're ready. Every single day I talk, every single time I've been doing a rally, the next day they have to write a mainstream media article to try to debunk everything I said. Try to mischaracterize it. How are you going to mischaracterize this? Mainstream media, aka fake news, aka government propaganda mouthpiece. Are you going to say the police weren't really here in front of their headquarters protesting against the vaccine? Are you going to say that people didn't really come and back them like you tried to do with the firefighters in Niagara? Are you really going to try to pull that card? Go for it. Look what's happening to Trudeau when he goes to his events. Do I really need to say another word? Like that. We're supposed to be holding these people accountable and punishing them, not giving them their wildest dreams. Come on, guys. But Trudeau is most likely going to win the election. What's going to happen is they're going to lock us down. They're going to blame the rising cases that are going to be mostly in the vaccinated on a new variant. They're going to make up a name like COVID-22, a super strain, Delta Plus. And the best part is, they're going to blame it on the healthy, unvaccinated. Why? Because they're so weak that they can't do anything to us. They have to try to get us to fight each other. But what they're trying to do with this massive division is only going to backfire. Because I'm telling you what they're doing before they do it. So you got to go out and tell everybody, especially your friends that took the jab, especially the ones that have been telling you, oh, all we need to do to get through this is comply. You believe me now that where compliance leads you? Do you really need to comply any longer to see where it's going to keep leading you? Or you think you're ready for a little united non-compliance? And they're not ready. That's why they're trying to turn us against each other. They would love it if they could get the jab people so angry and so afraid of the unjabbed. Think of the mask wearers versus the non-mask wearers, but like 10 times worse. That's what they're envisioning. And not only will that allow them to have us fighting amongst each other, just like we're doing now with the stupid election, and I'll explain how they're doing that in a second, but the more we fight amongst each other with that, they can do their agenda. The election is the biggest way to divide people. People in the freedom movement first of all, they tried to call me controlled opposition. Really? How am I controlled? I've been arrested over a dozen times. I've accumulated over $100,000 in fines and legal fees close to that. I'm currently on 6 separate bails, each one of them with their own conditions, including things like not being able to drive, not being able to fly, having my house raided and all my legally owned firearms taken, not being able to speak in Ontario while they were under stay-at-home order, which was only rescinded in June. And then I'm out on bail to that. I literally have to take orders from that. And my wife now. So now I have 2 people in my wife that I have to listen to 24 hours a day or I can be sent back to jail. Why are they doing this to me? Because they want to make an example of people who stand up. But all they're doing is proving that really They can't do anything. They haven't stopped me from speaking. They haven't stopped me from spreading the word. Yesterday, if you saw during the Worldwide Walkout, I heard people chanting all the way from Vancouver, tens of thousands of them. Just say no. Just say no.
Just say no! Just say no! Just say no!
And it
Just
works.
say no! Just say no!
And that's all we have to do. See how easy that was? See how easy that was? It took 2 seconds to start that chant. It takes even less than that to look someone and say no. That's all we have to do, and this ends. And when the businesses are already on board, and the people are already on board, and the police are already on board, it's now the government and their fake news to try to convince us to go along with it. Why do they need the vaccine passport? And why do they need this massive compliance? Do you guys know what the new vaccination target is for Ontario? 100+%, whatever the hell that means. It means they're going to give you an extra shot, some of you, just to be extra safe. That's their target for Ontario. And I got a document leaked to me, and I'm going to say it right here, and it's a Toronto police document. Surprise, surprise. I get things from people that don't like what's going on. And each one of us has a little file of our COVID vaccination history attached to our name. And they already have 4 separate shots allocated to each and every one of you. Well, they've been telling you, just take your shot, you're going to be okay. Now it's 2 shots, now it's 3 shots. Now they already let the cat out of the bag. It's going to be 3 shots a year until they say otherwise. And then they can add other things in there. Why not yearly blood samples? Why not other things? They can do anything, right? They're doing it right now, and we're letting them. That's the only reason this is happening, because we're letting them.
Why aren't you taking down Dr. Mengele today?
That's what we need to do. We need to hold these people accountable. But the first thing we need to do is get our freedoms back. Remember the phases of United Non-Compliance, ladies and gentlemen. Phase 1 was the global awakening. That's when people like me and others like me woke up billions around the world to the reality that this has nothing to do with health and safety and everything to do with control. It's that simple. That's it. That's it. And once people actually understand that, all the propaganda, all the lies, all the things they use to keep you pacified and asleep no longer work. Once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep, and you can wake up others. Phase 2 is taking action, and that's where we are now. And we were so good at it that they had to go ultra draconian. They had to show their hand. This whole time they tried to pretend like they were your friend. They were giving you ice cream cones, Krispy Kreme donuts. They were giving you lottery tickets to get the vax. Now all of a sudden it's, you can't work, you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't live life, and you're a piece of garbage terrorist. You understand where this is going next? If you don't, just have a look at Australia. They're already raiding over 2,000 homes a day and picking people up and bringing them into involuntary detention centers. Hi, baby. My wife made it. Come up here, please. We were stuck in traffic. I literally had to get out of the car and run. This is my beautiful wife, Jenny. They actually tried to take her away from me in the most recent arrest. Yes, of all the other conditions that I told you weren't enough, in order for them to release me, and why did they arrest me in the first place? They arrested me twice in the last 5 days. And since I'm opening a professional standards investigation against the Winnipeg Police, because they're the most corrupt police force in Canada, I'm going to make this public. We went to Winnipeg, August 23rd. And I want the world to know this, because they're lying, and they tried to lie in a news broadcast after, and they tried to defame me, and they tried to discredit my character. So Winnipeg Police and Brian Pallister, this one's for you. Listen carefully, world. So everybody knows that way back in May, I was on tour, and one of my stops was in Winnipeg. The day before I arrived there, I was in Regina, Saskatchewan on a Thursday. They went to a judge with a flyer for the Friday event showing that I was intending on speaking, and they asked the judge to give a warrant for my arrest in advance, saying they knew I was planning on breaching a public health order, give us a warrant to arrest them in advance, like something you see out of a movie, pre-crime. And guess what? They got it. So they did this big press conference and told everybody I had a warrant for my arrest. So I went live and said, well, screw you, then I'm not going to come. I'm going to stay in Saskatchewan, I'm going to go to Saskatoon instead, and I'm going to go to Calgary like I'm supposed to. And that's exactly what happened. That's it. And then I heard nothing about it since. I was driving home on August 23rd, and we were driving through Manitoba, and a few friends saw me as we were driving, and they said, stay for a rally, stay the night, we'll do a rally tomorrow, we'll figure it out overnight. I said, I'd love to, but I want to make sure I don't have a warrant first. And I wanted to see how corrupt the Winnipeg police really were. So what did I do? I had my lawyer on August 23rd contact 2 police departments, one in Manitoba, one in Ontario, verify with multiple officers, document, badge number, everything, that I had no warrants for my arrest anywhere in Canada, and especially not in Manitoba. So as soon as I found that out, I told my friends, we're good to go, let's do a rally. So they set it up overnight. In the morning, we went to the rally. I was on mainstream news. I said, I'm going to be here. If you want me, come and get me. Yeah. Sure enough, they took the bait. They came and they arrested me. Wow. Right as I was speaking, a warrant magically appeared on the CPEC system. Magically, at the exact moment that I was speaking, that was also magically backdated from months before, but not on the computer till that very moment. So they came and arrested me on this fake, fraudulent, corrupt, illegal warrant. And when I asked them why they were arresting me and if the charge was from that day, because that's the only thing that would have been legit, they said no. I laughed and I told them exactly what I told you. They thought I was bluffing until they brought me to jail, and my lawyer called and gave the badge numbers of the officers. And the arresting officer was also forced to admit that yes, indeed, the warrant just popped up on the screen on August 24th at the exact moment that I happened to be speaking. If that wasn't bad enough, when I actually saw what they charged me for, it was 2 fine offenses that I got way back in April. One for not quarantining and one for not wearing a mask outside while I was at my event, which I am currently fighting in court. So they charged me for the same crime twice, one that's not even an arrestable offense, and only put it on the system at the exact time that I happen to be speaking, so that I have a legal way to arrest me. And when it all came out in court, because I got a chance to speak to the justice, they had to release me the same day. And I told everybody what happened. So then they made a newspaper article debunking my conspiracy theories. Okay? Within 12 hours, we were still driving home. Now we're in Ontario, in the middle of nowhere. And my wife and I pulled over so Z could pray. He's a Muslim. It was his time. All of a sudden, we got swarmed by 4 police cruisers, 8 police cars, and they wanted to question my wife. Somebody had called 911 and said that I pushed her into the car and hit her legs with the door, slammed the door on her legs. Somebody said that, apparently. She said it didn't happen. My best friend was there, he said it didn't happen. I obviously told him it didn't happen. But they insisted, because 2 separate people had told them it did happen, they had to take me to jail. Once I got to jail, they admitted it was only one person that happened to be driving by on the highway. And they said the only way they're going to let me out of jail is if I signed a form saying I wouldn't be allowed to be with or see my wife. Yeah. Even though that's not what she wanted, or it's not what I wanted. So obviously I didn't sign it. They kept me in jail overnight. Thankfully the judges aren't quite as corrupt as some of our police force is. And I got out the next day for the 6th time with more conditions. So now I literally I can't even get her angry. I have to do what she says, and I have to do what B says. But thankfully, I don't have to do what Trudeau says. And this is what they'll try to do. They'll try to take everything you care about. They'll try to take everything you love. And I want you guys to know what I'm sacrificing when I'm fighting. Because when I'm telling you to go out there and stand up for yourselves, yes, I'm telling you to take risks. Some of you are like, oh, my job's at risk. Oh, my schooling's at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, previous generations of Canadians fought, bled, and died for what we have. And I'm telling you right now, I'm one of those people that will do it all over again. So if they want to fight, that's the last thing they have. If they want to bow out, if they want to just give us our freedoms back, cut their losses, fade into obscurity, that could be the best thing they could do right now. Pushing forward with their plan is only going to explode in a way that they can't even imagine. They want to use Canada as the example for the rest of the world to implement their tyranny, because Canada is seen all around the world as a beacon of light, hope, and freedom, and for a good reason. And you know what's going to end up happening? We are going to be an example of the rest of the world, an example of how we're going to take our freedoms back, depose these tyrants, and make sure this never happens again. We need real organization though, people. I don't want anyone talking about their favorite politician. And when people tell me, this is how I'm going to explain how stupid it is, why they divide more than anything. Watch this conversation. Any one of you can come up to me and ask me the innocuous question, who are you voting for? I'll tell you the truth, I've never voted in my life, because to me they're giving me a choice between 4 or 5 different pieces of shit, and I have a little bit of integrity, so I would rather just say, well, I'm not going to choose between a piece of shit, I'd rather just not eat what you're serving. And that's why the largest demographic of Canadians is the non-voter. People that have never voted before. That's not a coincidence. It's because people are smart enough to see through these politicians and know that they're voting for evil. Everyone else votes for what they believe is the lesser of evils, then complains when those people do evil. Doesn't really make much sense. But watch what happens if I have this innocuous conversation. And this is why I want everyone to see how stupid it is to talk about politics. That's why I'm wasting this time talking about politics, to hopefully stop you guys from talking about politics. That's the kind of place we're at right now. Check it out. So I tell you, I'm not voting. You know what I hear? Oh, that just gives another vote to Trudeau. That means you want him to win. I go, no, I don't want Trudeau to win. He's the reason I'm here. That makes no sense. But they'll still insist that if I don't vote, it means I want Trudeau to win. So I say, okay, vote for your hero, Maxime Bernier in the PPC. Then the rest of the crowd's like, you're just saying that because you want to split the Conservative vote because you want Trudeau to win. And I'll say, no, I don't even vote. I really just said that because you guys told me to tell you to vote for someone. And they'll say, no. I'll say, okay, well, why don't you vote for O'Toole? Oh, you're just saying that because you know he can't beat Trudeau and you want Trudeau to win. So basically, no matter what I say, even if I tell you not to vote, I somehow still want everybody to vote for Trudeau, who's the reason why I'm here, fighting for my freedoms rather than like maybe traveling the world with my beautiful wife. I don't know. Maybe I enjoy traveling around all of Canada over and over and over again, saying the same things to people that call me crazy. And then even after the stuff happens, still call me crazy. But no, I'd rather be traveling around the world, but here we are, because in order to get our freedoms back, I have to unite the people against a tyrannical government that's using every which way to divide the people, and the best way to divide the people is a political election. You think it's an accident they're doing the election, and then they're putting the vaccine passport into play like 2 days later? Or you think it's because they want you so wrapped up talking about the election that you don't make any meaningful resistance to the vax pass? Well, we already have hundreds of thousands of businesses that said they're not going to enforce it. So now we need millions of Canadians to go out there and find these businesses, give them their business. And for the ones that don't want to enforce it, go to those businesses too and get yourself a fine. I want to see how far we can get the fine. I want to get a fine that says court date 2067. That's what I want to see. And I think at that time the government's going to get the picture and back down peacefully. Because if they make peaceful revolution impossible, they make a violent revolution inevitable. And the last thing I want is violence. But if they start trying to do an Australia-style thing, where if you go 5 kilometers from your house, they send the military in there to forcibly inoculate you, or they start rounding up our citizens and bringing them to camps, it's going to be start time to rounding up politicians and bringing them to camps. And I said it. So you guys want to strike first? Go ahead. It's going to be the biggest mistake you ever made. I'm calling out you, Trudeau, directly. I'm calling out your handlers directly. And I'm calling out the dictators from all around the world. We are at that point where the people have stood up. We said enough is enough. If you try to push this agenda any more forward, you're going to get pushed back like you've never even imagined in your wildest dreams. Hopefully I've made myself clear. But if we haven't, on September 25th, after they've been put the vax pass in place, and maybe even as they're about to try to install another lockdown, we're hosting a massive freedom rally in downtown Toronto. The first freedom rally that I've been to in Toronto all year. And we're hosting it with masks. We're hosting it for the vax. We're hosting it for law enforcement. We're hosting it for frontline workers. We're hosting it for students. We're hosting it for Canadians against tyranny. It's that simple. And I want to see how many Canadians we can get. If you guys saw in Montreal, we got about 300,000 people on the streets. That's bigger than our standing army and all of law enforcement combined, most of which is already on our side, by the way. Remember that, Trudeau. They do not like you. They do not like you at all. This is why when you go to an army base, they make them disarm their weapons. And this is why before you can even come to a place like this, your security has to check it out first and make sure there's not enough people that are going to heckle you. And then still, they find a way to come find you and heckle you. If you were a real leader, you could walk around amongst your people. You would have security because you would have political enemies. You wouldn't have security because you're afraid someone from the crowd might just do something bad to you. But that's where we are. And that's how you know we have an evil dictator in power. And whenever you've had an evil dictator in power, you cannot vote your way out of tyranny. They have a system set up that no matter who you vote for, you're going to get more of the same. Look at the history of our country if you do not believe me. So this is why they're trying to distract us with an election. This is why they're trying to tell you not to listen to me. Because the only solution is for all of us to stand together and just say no. And when we do that, that is asserting our power. And we have to do it before they get the Vax Pass. The Vax Pass, make no mistake, is the nullification of our God-given rights and freedoms. And they know the only way they can make it stick is if they can get near 100% compliance. So they're going to lie to you and tell you everyone's vaccinated when they're really not. How many of you here are vaccinated? Raise your hand if you're not scared to tell everybody.
I'm a halfback.
Look at that. I don't see many hands raising. Does this look like 75 or 85% of the population is vaccinated here, or are we the only holdouts in Canada? Or maybe, just maybe,
I took it.
the government might be lying to you. I know, eh? The thought of that, the thought of the government not being truthful, the thought of the government not having your individual best interests at heart, that's literally too much for most Canadians to handle. That's why they don't like United Non-Compliance. That's why it's so easy for a politician like Maxime Bernier to come in and try to co-opt the freedom movement. Because when I'm telling you United Non-Compliance, what I'm really saying in another way, because I know Canadians are terrified of this word, is personal responsibility. And no Canadian likes that. They're so used to having the government do everything for them. So as soon as a government person comes up and tells them, oh, don't worry, just vote for me, I'll fix everything. No more personal responsibility. Sitting back on the couch, no more taking action. That's why, once again, there is no political solution to this problem. Those solutions are fake. Did you see how angry the PPC got when somebody made a suggestion to write Chris Sky on the ballot? Did you see how angry? I forgot about that. When I said, if I suggest that, I obviously want Trudeau to win too, because now I'm telling people to throw away their vote. The same as not voting. So here, I'm going to say it here in a way that can make it so nobody can say I'm trying to influence the outcome of the election in any way. If you already have your heart set on a politician and you love voting, go vote for your favorite politician. If you weren't going to vote, or you didn't know who you were going to vote for, go do that. Go write Chris Sky on the ballot, take a selfie. Yeah, they're going to tell you, Mark Friesen of the PPC tried to scare everybody and say, it's illegal, it's a trap, Chris Sky wants you to get arrested. Please, anybody, go look up the fines or imprisonment for taking a ballot selfie. And let me know the last time any Canadian has been charged or imprisoned for it. That is United Non-Compliance. That is telling people that we are not participating in a corrupt system, and we don't need to because you don't make the rules. Because it doesn't matter who's in charge. Jagmeet Singh can get elected. We'll still be on lockdown. It'll still be up to us to reject the vaccine passport and take our freedoms back. So does the election matter? No, it doesn't matter at all. Maybe if I was running it would matter, but unfortunately in this election I'm not. And everybody has been asking me to run since we ran a poll on Twitter, and with 15,000 votes I got over 65% of the vote, which is pretty embarrassing. And I told everybody, that's phase 3 of United Non-Compliance. And that's holding these people accountable, remaking our country in a way that this can't happen again and that everybody prospers going forward. They have a future in mind for us that is literally, if you heard of what George Orwell said about the future, I'm going to use his quote to describe it. When someone asked him, what is your definition of the future? You know what he said?
This is being censored.
Picture a face being stamped by a boot forever. That's what they want. They want that kind of control over you. And if we do nothing, that's what they're going to implement. The Vax Passport is phase 1. The next thing you're going to hear after the Vax Pass is how dirty money is and how cash is one of the leading causes of transmission. So we're going to have to move to a digital currency. And just like you have a digital identity now, you have a digital vaccine passport by October 22nd, you're going to have a digital currency. And they're all going to be intertwined. And then the fourth piece of the puzzle is your social credit score. Just like your real credit score, only now they get to penalize you for the things you say or the people you take pictures with. And they are modeling it directly after China. Does that sound scary? Because it should, and it's exactly what's happening. So that's what happens if you don't do anything. And then within a couple years from now, these kind of rallies are not only not possible, they're irrelevant. Because right now, we have the power as people. Each individual has power. In their future, each individual is relegated to a little blip on a screen where they literally flip a switch and you're done. Done. So you stand up now, or you're going to be laying down forever. And if we do stand up now, we can have a golden crystal age of Canada. You were told to be my bodyguard. Thank you. Thankfully, I don't need bodyguards. Everybody usually just attacks me with hugs, which is quite all right with me. And I can go around all of Canada like that. Imagine that. I don't have to send a security team and scope it out. I can just show up and not have to worry about people wanting to hurt me because I'm not a piece of garbage. But that's phase 3 of United Non-Compliance. And if you guys really want me to run for PM and you really want me to unleash my plan, I had a plan I call A Free Canada. I unveiled it August 20th in Edmonton. And it's about replacing the 338 ridings currently occupied by public sector parasites from every single party. That's what they all have in common. They're all public sector parasites. When we have the lockdowns, what happens to the government officials? They got more money, more power, they kept all their privileges, so they created a class where they're up here and we're down here. And then every time it came time to vote to extend or end the lockdowns, guess what these public sector parasites all did, unanimously almost? They voted to extend the lockdowns and extend their privileges and extend their money. Does that shock you? No, but imagine we had people in those ridings that were private sector people that actually had skin in the game, people that would never vote for a lockdown, people that could actually run their districts without annual budget deficits. Imagine that. Imagine having a country run efficiently, a country run fairly, and a country run by the people for the people, and not just having that as a slogan, but having that as actual really done. So that was my plan for A Free Canada. And I think it's pretty foolproof.
How about politicians who just tell the truth?
Politicians will never tell the truth. A politician is a politician because they know. Why is a politician a politician? What is their job? Their job is to tell you whatever they need to tell you to gain your support financially and to gain your vote. And that's why they get people to donate money to them, because they're so good at lying and so good at gaining your support. That's all they're there for. And that's why there's no such thing as a freedom movement and a political freedom movement. There's a freedom movement and a political campaign. So when any politician like Hillier or Bernier come to these freedom rallies and pretend like they're here to save us, they are lying to you. Anybody that tells you they're there to save you is lying to you. If I came up here and said, I'm here to save you, I am lying to you. I can't save you. This is not a one-man show. This is a show where I can lead by example and teach you how to save yourselves.
Yes, sir.
And once we've done that, And by doing that, I mean rejecting the vaccine passport and getting our freedoms back. Then we can move on to phase 3 of United Noncompliance, hold these people accountable, and then you can count on me to run for PM. I promise I'll do it. If you guys do what I ask and you help me get rid of the vaccine passport, the day the vaccine passport becomes a bad memory is the day I'll launch my candidacy for Prime Minister with an anti-political party. And tell them, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to suffer. And why are you going to have to suffer? Because for almost 2 years, nobody listened to anything I said. Nobody took any preparations. Nobody heeded the warning. And now that the chickens are coming home to roost, there's not enough time to stop this election from happening. There's not enough time to stop the next lockdown. There's not enough time to stop them from implementing this Vax Pass. Unless we have an angel that comes and gives me $300 or $400 million in the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, guess what's going to happen? The election's going to end. It's going to be a moot point. We're going to get locked down. They're going to put the Vax Pass, and they're going to try to crush each and every one of us to the point where we just take the vax, submit, and that's never going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what has to be done. I know what has to be done. Let's get it done. I love you all. Let's stick together.
What about